What's going on, everybody? You are listening to the Event Guys podcast. Our goal on this show is to help event profs be successful in this awesome industry that we're in. And whatever your path is, whether you're starting your own company, building your career, or developing your personal brand, we promise to bring together amazing guests and discuss relevant topics to help you along the way. Today, the Event Guys talk to Rick Portwood, founder of Display Group here in Detroit. We get into topics like leadership, building and cultivating a winning team, creative thinking, and so many other cool topics. Enjoy this episode with Rick Portwood. Hey, now we're rolling. Rick Portwood, the man, the myth, the legend. Anybody who is in the Detroit, Metro Detroit, Southeast Michigan, I would dare say even the Northern Michigan event market knows exactly who Display Group is. We've all had the pleasure of either working with you at an event or seeing the fruits of your team's labor at some awesome event. And every time I see something else you guys do, I'm blown away by what your team is capable of. But so like a few minutes ago, we were talking about the gentlemen that are over each of your shoulder. So people like us that are old enough to remember the Bad Boys. You got Bill Lambier there. So back when they first went to the Palace, and they were winning their couple of championships there. And, when they played away games, they would do Palace Vision. So you could still go and watch the game on the big scoreboard there, even though they were out in like Portland against the Trailblazers in the finals or whatever. Yeah. And one of the days that we scored tickets, and it was just first come, first serve, free general admission. You get in, you find whatever seat you can get. So you'd want to be up in the upper level first row because you were looking eye level at the scoreboard. And 96.3 was the radio station back then that was like the big hot one. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and they were doing a contest, a banner contest. Whoever makes the coolest banner wins $96.3. And I was in high school at the time, so for me, that's a big win, right? Yeah. So I'm trying to think, and I was an artist, that's what I did. So I was trying to think of like what I could do. So I took a king size sheet, and I drew Bill Lambier with both arms up, the way he used to like post up, right there in the lane. And then I did Vinnie Johnson with his like flexing, because he was like such a brick. And then I did Dennis Rodman with his one finger in the air, because every time he would dunk, he'd run back down with his, one finger up. But they were facing away from you, and their shorts were at their ankles. Now, mind you, this was in like 1989, so politically correct, policies were a little different then. And their shorts were down around their ankles, and their jerseys were on, but they all had those pose, and it said, "Hey, Portland, blaze these trails, go Pistons." And I hung that over the railing. In about the third quarter, some person walks up and says, "Hi, whose banner is this?" And I said, "That's mine." They said, "Well, we're from 96.3 and you win." Yeah. So I won $96.3. You thought I won the Mega Millions,
That's awesome. How old were you, Derek?
That's awesome.
I was in high school, so I was 89, so I was probably 16 at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, which anybody listening now, I just really dated myself.
Well, and anybody listening to this who knows me knows that like this is like the only question I can ask in a sports-related reference. Is like, is basketball the thing that the people do this, right?
Oh, good times. Okay, so Rick,
I made a sign out of a sheet when I was in high school for the Clash, when I was going to see the Clash.
Oh, rock the Casbah, baby.
As soon as I finished it, my mom came downstairs and was horrified because it was her grandmother's sheet that her grandmother that they had, one of the few things they had saved.
Oh, no.
That didn't go over too well for me. That was my last sign.
Yeah, that's true rock and roll right there.
Maybe that was the early inspiration for Display Group there. Well, okay, before we get too deep, so again, this is going to be a hard one to answer because there's so much that Display Group has done and still does, but maybe you can give us kind of the brief history of what you guys are and how you came to build this thing that Display Group is now.
Sure. So, you have to go back actually to 1922, which is when my cousin's company was founded in the city of Detroit, and that was called Display Creations. So I worked for my cousin while I was going to school, and then he talked me into coming to work for him after college when I went to Northwood. And I started working there with the intention of buying him out. And about a year and a half in, he told me that he had sold the company to someone new, which was obviously kind of disappointing. And, I was only 23 3 at the time and didn't have any money, so it wasn't really practical idea for me to buy the company anyway, but I wasn't really thinking like that. So the new guy and I just didn't really mix well. I didn't like his vision. So in 91, I started Display Group with a partner, Tim Arlington. And soon after that, John Lamb joined us. And we've been, we started in Royal Oak in a small office and then moved to Detroit in 1992 and have, went from a 20,000 square foot building to a 165,000 square foot building to a 255,000 square foot building. So we've had this steady growth. And a lot of it is, I had a passion for the business because it's what, I kind of grew up doing a lot of those things. But I really the whole idea of calling it Display Group was that I really didn't want to say no to people if I didn't have to. If it was something that we could do, we had a group of people who could do displays. That was the idea. So from there, we just kind of kept adding, services that we couldn't get the satisfaction from other vendors. We would bring in-house and we would run them ourselves just because we have really high standards. So
Nice.
That's
Awesome.
hopefully that answered your question of how we started, but
It's a good top to the container that we're going to peel off and dive a little deeper on. You mentioned John Lamb. I've had the pleasure, a couple of us have had the pleasure of, whether working in ILEA or just around town, have worked with John. And talk about a gentle soul. Boy, that guy is about as good as they come as far as people are concerned, huh?
yeah, no doubt. I mean, John's been with the company for almost 29 years. So pretty amazing. It's the only job he's ever had. I hired him right out of college when the company was like 6 months old. And he's been a great person to help build the company. And, that's kind of the key to me of being, having a successful business. It's not so much that you're so great. It's more about the team that you put around yourself that is great. And, I'm not really great at many things other than finding the right people. And I think, I lean on my people a ton, and John is just one example of that. But we've got a lot of people like that around here.
That's you just hit on a leadership lesson that I've read in just about every book that I try to get better at, which is the best leaders are the ones that surround themselves with the best people,
Yeah. I'd like to dig into that a little bit, Rick. So for those of us, looking in the industry to grow our teams and stuff like that, talk to us a little bit about how do you find the right people? I know it's a personal struggle I've had, and I've been very lucky with some of my people, but then some of the times, over the years, it can be a real struggle, and you come in with the best of intentions, and sometimes you're disappointed. And so how do you navigate that? What advice do you have to share?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And that's something that, unfortunately it takes a lot of time to learn, how to do that, because I certainly have made a lot of hiring mistakes. I think the most important thing is that, if you do make a mistake, don't wait, correct it as soon as possible. That's number one. But something that we do now, we've developed a set of core values, that are what the company stands for and what we're all about. And so what we do is, before we hire anybody, we talk to them about our core values. I actually talk to them about our core values for at least a half an hour to an hour, because if they don't buy into those core values, they're not going to be successful. And it's sometimes people are like, oh, I can't really do that, or I don't want to do that, and it's like, okay, that makes a decision really easy, because we just feel that it's, you've got to be pulling in the same direction in here, or else you're just not going to fit in. If you're not a team player, if you're not going to do the things you say you're going to do, it's not me that will root you out. It's the other team members that'll root you out.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice. And as you have grown from where you did up to you're a really large company. So the target for us in doing this podcast is, primarily event professionals, but also anybody with an entrepreneurial spirit or a desire to build something up. Most of us in the event industry, and the three of us here would be right in line with this. When we build our companies, we may have 4 people or 5 or 6, or I have a bunch of contract musicians, but what you've got is on a much bigger scale. Where does the mindset come from that takes you up to being such a huge corporation, how do you maintain like the control and where did you get the mindset that kind of drove you to build this thing to where it is now?
That's a great question. I mean, the most important thing to building something, anything, is learning how to delegate. Because you can't do it all yourself. So that's why you got to surround yourself with really good people that believe in your same core values, and then you just have to depend on them to make sure that their people are doing the exact same things. So for us, I think that the biggest reason for our growth is that I most likely have some form of ADD. So
Have we all said that in the last 24 hours?
It's like required.
So, as soon as, let's say that as soon as we finish a big project, because that's kind of what I do here, our big relationships, big projects, if we're going to bring another company into the group of companies, those are the things that I do, and those are the people that I go and talk to. And I just take a lot of time to make sure that those people fit in with our values. And as long as they do, then all those synergies start to work together, and it's really easy to grow. I mean, great example is when Mike McConnell and I did our joint venture and formed AVL Creative. We had a lot of infrastructure at Display Group from a sales and marketing and a management standpoint that they didn't have. So when we were able to bring them in and lend that support to them, they really were able to flourish, and have really grown considerably. Even I'm really proud to say this because I don't think anybody in our industry can say it, but AVL's sales were actually up in 2020, which is it's crazy, and I think that's really a testament. I would put most of the credit on Mike McConnell and obviously his team, but we were able to pivot, and we were able to have the resources and put some things together that really saved the year for us, which is great. I wish I could say the same about Display Group, but we've haven't done a ton of events, as most of you probably haven't either.
Yeah, right.
But yeah.
Yeah, Rick, can you talk a little bit about last year and what happened with COVID? And I really want to hear more about how AVL was able to really, increase their sales. Obviously the three of us know about the studio, and
There you go.
we saw your open house, by the way, which you guys did an amazing job. Just super impressive with the transitions and every part of it, from the set design and all that. So that's one of the cool things, like, for you guys to have that in the building and in your collection, to be able to set that and provide that full service in-house. To talk about last year a little bit and, what that looked like for you guys.
Sure. So, like most people, I was actually heading back from Mexico on March 14th last year, to a lot of uncertainty. And so, we, like everyone else, we decided to close down for, we thought would be a couple of weeks. And we, in talking to some of our clients, especially the live show clients, they were very concerned, obviously, as everyone was, but, hey, this is how we sell our product, or this is how we raise our money. What are we going to do? So we put together, Mike really had the idea initially for one of our clients, and it was to take our showroom and pull everything out of it and basically build out a temporary studio. We had all the streaming equipment already. We had been doing that for clients when we did road shows. So it was nothing new to us. So we built it out, and it went really well. And probably come like August, our showroom was right next to our shop. Well, our shop started getting busy. So we started doing a lot of our custom stuff again. So obviously a shop and a studio don't mix well. So we decided in August that we were going to take the plunge. We were going to close our linen division, which we had talked about for a couple of years anyway. And we moved it all out in about a week, and we started construction. And by the first week of November, we had a permanent soundstage studio with a control room and everything. So we really, we decided to be bold and make some major investments, and it's paid off for us because we've really been doing a lot of really neat work, and it's created a whole new business for us. So that's been great. A lot of fun.
Well, you guys, I think you were in a great position, whether you realized it or not. And I think a lot of companies who were able to take it, when I say take advantage, I don't mean take for granted. I don't mean, to the detriment of anybody, but who took advantage of the opportunity that presented itself last year. Instead of just sitting back and waiting, a lot of people saw that there's going to be a lot of different needs in the market. People's, their needs individually are going to change, and you guys really were in a good position to take advantage of that. But that doesn't, like we always say, ideas are nothing, execution is everything. It didn't mean anything until you actually pulled the trigger and did it. And I mean, you guys really stepped up and kind of set the example for how to, I hate to keep using the word pivot, but how to pivot, how to flourish in a market where, the rest of us are all just trying to stay alive.
Well, I mean, it was, it worked out really well. I have to say the other thing that we did is, in all these things, it really took some major investments for us to do these things. So the other thing we did is we bought a ton of outdoor video wall this summer, and we have had the majority of it out the whole year, since then. It's still all out right now. So, and we're using it for some, church services and different things where people need to still get together and they want to. So yeah, between those things, we've been able to really, build up our inventory and, keep things pretty strong, which is a testament, more to Mike than to me.
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed, but I held up my AVL Yeti. I keep that handy all the time. That's my
I appreciate that. Yeah,
my office container.
So I used to have one, but my son took it to school with him. So
you're telling me there's got to be one within 10 yards of you right now that you could go steal from somebody.
I think I could probably walk down and get one if I really wanted one. Yeah.
So with what you were just talking about and what you guys did last year, what is, and with all of these questions, to whatever extent you feel comfortable, sharing with us and our audience, what's the process you guys go through for developing new products and services? Is it more like the client comes to you and says, and then you're like, yeah, we can do that? Or is there more of a process where you have a leadership team or an innovation board or whatever that sits around saying, what else can we do with these tools? And then you take it to market. Like, is it push or pull?
Yeah, well, we do have a leadership team that actually since COVID, we initiated a 15, 20-minute meeting every single morning with the management team. And basically what we do, it's a real simple meeting, but it's super effective, is we give a positive from our personal life. We give a win that we had from the day before and a win that we hope to have today. And then the last thing is, are we stuck anywhere? Do we need help from anything? And if somebody's stuck, then we as a group, we discuss it and we move forward. So that's the management side of it. But as far as like new products and things, I'll give you a great example. So we have been looking at this giant 3D printer for a couple of years. And it's something that we really wanted to have here because we have all this 3D routing equipment and all this different cool machinery, but a 3D printer can do it so much faster. It can do a lot of things that our other machines can't do. So we had an opportunity in October to do a job out in Los Angeles at Paramount for a celebrity video gaming championship. And it was one of our exhibit clients out in Orange County that hired us to do it. And so essentially we had to create these translucent faceted thrones, a dozen of them, for all of the contestants to sit in, and they had to be illuminated. Well, illuminating something is difficult if you're building, it's hard to make it illuminated without seeing shadows or different things. So this machine that we bought actually could print these thrones. They were about 6 feet tall. It could print them in one pass. We just had to add a seat to it and they were done. And it was the only way that we could get the job. So we took the plunge and we bought that machine, and we somehow were able to get it here and get the technician here from Israel during COVID.
Wow.
And get all the electrical part, all the planets aligned to make that happen for us. But so that's kind of how it's kind of by demand, but we have things that we're always looking at that we want to add. We have a 3-year, 5-year, and 10-year plan that we adjust every single year. And, those types of purchases, I mean, we have another machine that we are just waiting for the right job to get. As soon as that job comes in, we already know the machine we want. We'll pull the trigger and we'll bring it in.
There's a couple of nuggets that you dropped there that made me think of. Do you guys follow a particular management a lot of the things you just said reminded me of what's called the traction, the entrepreneurial operating system, the EOS. Is that something?
EOS.
Yeah.
We've been doing it 3 years now.
That's a
3 years.
huge thing for me to hear, because as a, I'm just a, obviously, I've got me and an assistant, and then all of the musicians we hire. We're not anywhere near the size you are, but that's the system that I'm trying to implement as well. And it's cool to think that at any scale, it's the process is what you can build any company from. Whether you're as big as you guys or as small as me. That's cool to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea, I mean, I have a friend who, he's a coach that he specializes in just that system. So I hired him to implement it. And it's really been helpful because I tried to implement it on my own, and it's harder to implement it on your own, but it's still effective. And I think that, the whole idea of it is that you want you want the business to be able to operate without you there. Is kind of the concept. So it's, there's a process for everything. Everybody knows what they're supposed to do and what their responsibilities are. And everybody's pulling in the same direction. I'm not going to say that always happens, but it really helps that. And what's interesting is that as soon as you start setting like these, we meet every week and we have goals, and we have quarterly goals, we have annual goals, and we really are holding our feet to the fire. If you have to answer for something, you're going to be prepared. So that's kind of the idea behind it.
That's awesome.
You mentioned something really cool there. So regardless of kind of what level we're at, obviously you have a lot of leadership responsibilities. You mentioned a coach. We've read lots of books that always mention a coach in some form. Sometimes it starts out as a book. It starts out as a friend in the industry. But someone even at your level mentioned, hey, I went to someone to help implement something. Can you talk about the importance of either finding a coach or a mentor, regardless of what level you're at in the industry?
Yeah, other than my cousin, Henry, who I worked for a short time, and he was quite a bit older than me, I can't think of anybody in particular that I had as a mentor myself. And that's kind of, I've always kind of had my own ideas about things, and, sometimes I'm right and sometimes I'm not. But I saw the need where I was kind of hitting a wall with what I knew what to do, and to grow the business and to get it to a point where it would either be ready to sell it to somebody or to sell it to your managers. I just kind of decided a few years ago that that's something that I wanted to do. I'm a bit older than you guys, so I have to start thinking about those things a little bit more than you do right now. But, having a plan like that is critical, because at the end of the day, if, I walk across the street today and I get hit by a bus and I'm gone, I'm pretty confident that people here could keep everything going, and I think that's really what you're trying to do is empower people and just make sure you have the right people and people with the right attitude. And as long as you have that, it's pretty easy to do it if you give them some clear direction. So
I think that would be like a beautiful thing too, like to go into retirement and to be able to see your team continue on and do great things and see all the stuff that they can accomplish. I mean, what a great legacy. So on that note, can you talk a little bit more about how to grow a team and how to help develop them and help them reach their potential? I know we talked a little bit about the hiring part and getting aligned with core values. So once you have that team where everyone's got the core values and we're relatively aligned, what are some of the key concepts that you've used as the North Star to guide you to how do you consistently grow your team?
Well, I think that, the big thing is you have to be committed to spend the money to get the right people. Because, and I'm not saying you can't find people and bring them along. Every once in a while, we do find someone like that you can just recognize in them, a lot of talent. But so I think everybody's capable of it, but I think it's just really just narrowing in on the right people and making sure that they have a clear understanding of what they're doing, and I think that the other part of it is like for growth, I'm a firm believer in like visualization, how do you see it, and that's why having those 3, 5, and 10-year plans, it's like I can see it. I know I'm going to have this much revenue, and I know I'm going to have this much, in sales, and I know that my footprint's going to be this big, and I'm going to have this many vehicles, and I think if you can do that, no matter what it is, if you can get that visualization in your head, you just keep working towards it. And I think that works. I really do.
I love it.
And the other thing too, I was just going to say is, I'm a risk taker. I thrive on risk. You know, I'm, some of my friends have called me crazy in my life for some of the things that I've invested in, like buildings in Detroit. And so but I really feel like I have a good gut feeling on things. But you've got to, if you're risk adverse, you're not going to grow. You know, you got to be able, you don't want to be crazy risky, but you've got to be willing to take on the risk and just know that you're going to be able to figure out a way to pay for it.
That's kind of the mindset we're taking into this venture that we're doing here. We're building something out here. We're investing a lot of time and effort into something we think there's going to be a lot of value in, and these conversations for people, and hopefully.
No, I agree. I agree. I mean, it's and I mentioned this earlier, but in my business, I mean, money's never been like my motivating factor. My motivating factor is success. Having successes. Seeing clients happy, growing the business, getting into new things and trying to innovate into new things. And that to me is what's exciting. So like from a retirement standpoint, I don't know if I'd ever want to retire really, because I really enjoy it. But yeah, you just want to be able to slow down at some point if you want to. If you don't want to, we all know in the event world it can be a little crazy.
Yeah, it's nice to have weekends every once in a while too. I wanted to go back a little bit and talk about process. You mentioned kind of the goal setting and then visualization, which I love hearing and do a ton of reading about. So I'd just love to hear a little bit about how you implement that, and even on a personal level, and then also with the team, maybe for other people who are listening, how that will positively impact their growth. I mean, it's a huge part of it. Mindset is really, the biggest part of being an owner.
Yeah, well, mindset, and also, I mean, I really try to instill that in all my managers too. One of our number one core value is a word that we invented called creativate. And creativate is you got to be creative, but there's a budget involved, so you got to also be innovative. You can't just. I've had so many artists come through here who have these great ideas, but they'll never be a client that would ever pay for it. So you've got to be able to do that. So I think though that getting that visualization down, where like I mentioned, having these different plans for these different for 3, 5, and 10, that's shared with everybody in the company. So from the top person to the lowest level person. Everybody understands the vision. They may not understand it exactly the same way that the management does, but they understand what we're trying to do. And I think to if everybody's pulling in that same direction, it just makes things so much easier. And the other thing, when we instituted this the EOS model, one of the things in the EOS model is there's no sacred cows. Okay, so meaning that it doesn't matter if someone's been with you for 20 years, if they're not on the same page as you of what you're trying to do, and they're not willing to adapt to that, you've got to get rid of them. Because, we had to do that with a couple of key people here, people who I really, loved as people and still consider them to be my friends. But they weren't willing to make those changes, and we had to move on, because you just can't have somebody get in the way of that. Everybody's got to be pulling in the same direction, and if someone's not, you've got to be able to get rid of them. And I think if you set that tone with everybody, and it's not to get rid of them because you're trying to be mean, it's because they obviously aren't fitting in here, and they probably would have a happier existence somewhere else. So, and that's why I think later. Generally, we stay pretty friendly with even the people that we let go, because we still care about them, and we don't want to harm them. But if they're not the right fit, then we have to make the change.
You're probably doing a service to them, because they're probably going to end up in a better place for it anyway. Totally.
Well, if somebody's not performing well, it means that they're probably not that happy. So it's a good opportunity. And I would say with most people, when they've moved on, they've been like, I'm so glad you did that. I wasn't, So usually, I can't say that with everybody, but with most people, I think that they get it.
Yeah. I want to dig a little bit deeper. Did you go to college?
I did.
Oh, yeah, you have the mindset of...
I went to Northwood University.
Gotcha. I've met a number of people in my life, and it seems like the guys and gals who didn't go to college, who just have that hustle mentality, who have this, they're wired a certain way to just succeed. They just know how to do it. And it's okay. It is really okay to any good leader loves to push the credit to everybody else, but it's okay to talk about what you're great at and stuff. What I hear when you're talking is some people are built one way, some people are built another way. When you look at a challenge, I want to build a company, or I want to be an entrepreneur, or I want to accomplish this or whatever. Some people can just see it and it makes sense and the path is there. And others, you struggle to think, well, okay, well, what's next? What's my next step? And you come across to me as somebody who just kind of gets it. The big picture always just makes sense. So does that kind of ring true for how you look at yourself, or
Yeah.
where were your struggles in that?
I think so. I mean, I think that, I can see, I'll give you a great example of that. And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but
Please do,
that
though.
we're in
We
right
want you
now,
to.
When we first walked into that building, when I first took a walk in, it's actually where our new studio is. It's the first room I came into. But as soon as I walked into the warehouse and I saw the dock, I could visualize the whole thing of how the place would be laid out, where the shop would be, where this would be, and that's why I called my broker as soon as we got out of here, and I said, I want to put an offer, and he said, oh, I don't know, I don't know if you should do that. And I said, no, we're going to do that tomorrow. And because we took that risk and we moved into this building, it opened up so many opportunities for us, because we just had this crazy amount of space. And the same goes with like building the studio. We had that extra space available to us to be able to put that all together. So I would say to a certain extent, I do have a little bit of clarity sometimes.
When in my life, there's been instances where I felt like I had that, and the phrase I like to use for that is finding your creative voice. Finding that voice in your head that just gets it, that says the things inside your mind that work. Then there's times in my life when I struggle to tap into it. And I'm always curious with somebody who seems to always have that. Is there a way, or is there a process? Maybe it's a subconscious thing where you've never actually consciously thought about, like, well, why did I walk in and see the building and just know what was going to be there? If you don't question it, but somebody's listening is like, yeah, that's where I'm at. I want to build my company, but I just don't know how. How do you find that mindset where you just like tap into that creativity, that vision? It's kind of a hard question. It's open-ended, but
one thing that I really try to do is I love to hang out when I can and talk to people who are a lot more successful than me, because I feed off of that. And I mean, I love to see people being successful. It just makes me happy. And I just love to learn from them, what did they do, or what are the things that they did. But as far as like just having that innate sense of like, what to do, I don't know if that's something, honestly, that you can learn or not. I don't know. Some people are, I wasn't very good at school. I was never a very good student, but everybody has different talents. And I think what I would probably say is learning not only what your talents are, but more importantly, what your weaknesses are. Because, I've learned there are a lot of weaknesses that I have, and then trying to find people on your team who can help support that weakness, So like we have here on our management team, for example, I'm like a, go, jump on an idea and run with it. Well, I have other people on the management team who are like, oh, no. I want to take a look at this. I want to do a deep dive into the research, and I want to look at the numbers, and I want to, so that having that combination of people because if everybody was like me, we'd probably be out of business because we'd be, starting all these different things. But, it helps to have somebody around who can say, I don't know. I think that's too much of an investment, or and so that helps. Just recognizing your weaknesses helps a ton.
you're the innovator, right? You've got to.
Yeah, I mean
that
is actually in the management scheme. That is, I'm the innovator, and then the COO is the implementer. So he's the one who does the numbers and does the deep dive, and works with everybody else to carry out the vision. So yeah, having those different personality types. You certainly don't want yes people in your organization. I mean, I love it when people challenge me. I really do. I don't necessarily want them to do it in front of everyone, but my office is always open, and I'm always open to an idea, and I've been talked out of things many times, or talked into things. So, I have a very open mind, and I think it's just trusting your people. If they don't want to screw up either. So.
What does your daily routine look like at this point, where you've got a team of people around you who do, like you said, you've got a COO, you've got that, that's your implementer. I know a lot of your employees and what they do. It's kind of cool, I would think, to reach a point where you probably have a lot of say. You can design what you want your daily routine to look like. So at your point, let's kind of walk through in general, when you get up in the morning, you come into the office, what does your daily routine look like?
Well, it's different every day. I try to swim every day. So like this morning, I went and swam a mile before I came to the office to join you guys.
So what time do you got to wake up to get that done ahead of time?
I got up at 6:30 this morning, which isn't crazy early. Typically, I prefer to do it in the afternoon, but I just have a really busy day today, so I wanted to get it out. I kind of have a rule in my mind that I have to swim 6 miles a week. And so I only get one day to fluff off. So I got to be really careful about it. And so I think that, and for me, I know like having that time alone where no one's talking to me and I can think about all the issues that I have, I really get a lot of clarity out of that. Just to do that. And I think that I'm a firm believer in, although I may not always be the picture of health, I really try to eat right. I really try to work out a lot. And I think that goes a long way to keeping you positive. They say it releases endorphins in your brain. And so I think that, so that's always going to be part of my routine, is just some form of exercise. But, we have our management meeting every morning, like I mentioned. We have a deep dive management meeting every Wednesday. And then, throughout the day, I mean, there's, sales meetings or marketing meetings. There's one-on-ones with the sales team. So my day is pretty filled. And then, really my biggest thing that I am always trying to do is to network and to, find new clients. I don't manage the clients much anymore, but I still am responsible for bringing a lot of people in. And so I try to do a lot of networking and, always trying to meet new people.
Love that. I love that. That's the fun. What you're describing is everybody's different. I guess there's people out there that would say, no, I want to be the implementer. I want to be the COO, but what you're describing, just that being able to float up at 30,000 feet and see everything and tap into the areas that you feel you're strong at and do the things you think you're good at. That's where I think the joy and the reward comes from building something like this. And that's, some people would say success is being able to, like you said before, sell the company or retire. But I think for a true entrepreneur, the definition of success is just being able to define what you want to do every day and then being able to go do exactly that,
Yeah, I have a friend of mine who is a banker, and he had, I think, and maybe I might have the times wrong, but he had, I think, one bank in Troy in 2010, 2011, and he's now just leaving that bank, which was just merged with Huntington Bank. So he went from 1 to, 2,000 branches. And he's similar to me. He loves the hunt. He's not, the money part of it isn't really what drives him at all. He just loves the hunt. It's those, and he would work 18-hour days to get to this point. But that's the other thing. That's the other thing that I really think is important, is hard work is critical. And I tell this to any of the young people who come here. There's never a substitution for hard work. If you're not hustling and working hard, you're not going to get yourself ahead. You just will not, because there's always somebody who is going to do that. So we really push, like for us internally, if you have to call someone back, within a certain amount of time. We don't wait to call people back. We want to be the first people to quote. We want to be the first people to do the layout. So being the first one, I think, is just always important, and it's important to me, and that's I think that helps win a lot of business.
Go ahead. I was going to say if the whole episode was the last 2 minutes, that would have been a successful episode right there.
Yeah, for sure. Mike, you got something?
Yeah, I was interested. So hard work obviously is incredibly important. Taking care of yourself to get to that point is also important. So in addition to swimming, what other things do you do to recharge or kind of find that work-life balance? And any recommendations for us doing the same?
One thing that I like to do, I like to listen to music. I listen to music all the time. Still very interested.
I knew I liked this guy.
Always, looking at new things, and maybe you can see some. I don't know. Maybe you can't actually see. I've got a whole wall of some of my musical favorites over here. But so that's a good release. I really like to travel. I like to see new things. So that's a great release for me. I'm trying to think. What exactly was the question again? It was what was
so
what
just
was
to recharge. Obviously, you work hard all the time to recharge and to kind of.
The other thing, and I think vacations are super important. I think you got to be able to turn it off and focus on other things. And I always find when I come back from a vacation, I'm really recharged, and I'm it's a lot easier to be creative when you do that. Another thing that I do, which is kind of crazy. In fact, I have a match today, but I play a game called basketball, and it's a full contact basketball.
I love it.
It's played in a pool. So it's kind of like a combination of wrestling, water polo, and basketball. And I've been doing that for about 18, 19 years, and that releases so much stress. I can't even tell you. It's something to see. They've been playing it at the DAC for 101 years, which is crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm guessing just because you mentioned that you're a member.
So anything just to get, just to have a little bit of clarity from time to time and get away from the office.
Are you a member at the DAC?
I have been, for about almost 20 years now.
What a fantastic place that is. For us as event profs, we've all probably been there more than most people get to go into that building. But just so much history there for a city like ours that maybe doesn't have like what New York or Chicago has. A place like that is just so awesome. And during the recession, in 08 and 09, it was attainable, for folks like us to become members. And at the time, I didn't see the value in, I didn't see the bigger picture. Now I kick myself for not becoming a member. And is that where you go and swim in the mornings?
Well, that's where I go and swim. But, it's never too late. And I mean, I would not categorize myself as like a country club kind of person. It wasn't something that really appealed to me. And one of my neighbors, about 20 years ago said, Rick, I think it would be good for your business. You should just do it. So I figured, okay, I'll do it, but I'm going to really measure it. And if it's not good for the business, then I'm not going to do it anymore. And what I realized was, it is good for the business, but more importantly, it's good for me. It's like a great place to just escape. It's really close to me here. So if I need to get out of here and just, get out of here for a little while, I can do it and, take a whirlpool or whatever. So it's been a great thing for me. And in fact, we've actually had, Mike McConnell has joined, and he's going to be a member probably in the next month or two. And John Lamb just became a member last year. So
nice.
And I do think, from a networking standpoint, I think it's a good thing. I think it's for the price, I think it's well worth the money from the people that you get to meet. So if anybody's ever interested, let me know.
Yeah, well, we'll talk to you soon because
yeah.
I know I am. And, I tell you what, just hearing, I think we're learning a lot about what type of personality you've got, and, just the idea of the swimming and the crazy water basketball game that I cannot wait to come watch, because you got to be a beast to be doing that. I wish more people were focused on preventative. If people were focused on their health and preventative measures and building your immune system, we'd be in so much better of a place right now. We're too reactive of a society than we are proactive, and that's something I've been starting as I get older. I'm 48, and so I'm pushing that big 50, and my focus right now is on health and wellness every bit as much. But as you described all that, it clearly translated, your desire to maintain yourself personally is totally correlatable to who you are as a businessman, and I think it shows that it's consistent across every part of your life, that who you are as a person, you can't just be that at work, and you can't just be that in the gym. You either are that person or you're not, and clearly it comes across that you've got that in every aspect of your life.
Thank you. I try. I'm a hard worker. I never was very good in school. I always had terrible grades. And so I've just always been more of a hustler. And, and I think that hard work, I've told my kids, look, don't be lazy like me, work hard in school and get better grades, because you have a lot more opportunities, if you do that. But for me, it just didn't work out that way.
So you were talking before, like when you joined the DAC, this was one example you gave, like you did it because you wanted to enjoy the club, but you also you did it because of the networking that you thought you would be able to do in there. And as event profs, obviously, as members of ILEA, that's the reason that I joined and gotten very involved in that. And there's a lot of other, I'm sure every industry's got a benefit of networking, but certainly in the event industry. Was it just natural, or what's your routine or your mindset on how you get out and network? Because some people would just say, well, I don't know, do you just go to some event and get out of your comfort zone and walk around and try to get into the circle and talk? Or like what tips would you give, or how do you become a good networker?
Well, I think, I know from my own standpoint, the first thing I did, I remember when we joined NACE was the first group that we joined. And it was getting involved right from the start. Offering to donate our services to help enhance the events, just being a good partner with the organization. And so, I always try to do that with, we try to have people in all the organizations, and, it's like, if they need help in, doing their stage set, or if they need us to host one, or if they, I think it's, we just try to be a good partner to everybody. And we find, even our fiercest enemies, when I say enemies, our fiercest competitors, not enemies, we still work together. Sometimes they call us for things, and sometimes we call them for things. And I think that having that kind of a relationship with everybody is really important, and there's a lot of business out there, and everybody can kind of, there's enough for everybody to be happy, and, just try to be a good team player like that, whether you're in an organization or, on a job.
So, Rick, I'm curious for you to talk a little bit about what you're excited about for this year, for what's next. I can tell you that just looking at the year ahead, with hopefully things starting to open up, it's starting to warm up, there's just a lot of possibilities for events and for us to get out of the studios and start hitting outside or whatever. And plus, just also with the studio work, there's so many changes. I just feel like there's so many things to be excited about for the coming year. Talk to me about what you're excited about, and what's on your mind coming up here in the next quarter or a couple quarters.
Yeah, well, I agree. I think that we're going to start seeing a nice uptick come summertime. I think that that's pretty safe to say. I know that our pipeline of jobs is really starting to grow in the summer. I think that the fall and the winter could potentially be absolutely off the charts. There's this pent up demand, and I'm sure you've heard this. I'm not the first person to say it, but the Roaring '20s followed the Spanish flu. There's
absolutely
and all pent up, and they're ready to go. So hopefully we can have the Roaring '20s without the depression.
Yeah, or the prohibition, right?
Yeah, right. I don't think that's ever going to happen again.
I think you're spot on, and a lot of national. Conversations and Zoom webinars. There's a question that keeps coming up: is do you think events will ever come back? And some people say no, they're changed forever. I don't buy that for a second. Human nature is, to connect in the social aspect. People want to get back out to events. Would you agree?
Yeah, there's no doubt they do. I do think that you will see, hybrid events more so, where maybe not everybody's there, lower, I do think you'll see some of those things, but I think virtual, the thing that our clients have learned about virtual is that they can expand their market so much, like for fundraisers, charitable groups. I'll use Pewabic Pottery was one of the first ones to do their garden party virtually, and what they found was they made more money, doing it because they had lower overhead, obviously. But the reach, where they normally only got people from Metro Detroit to come to the event, they had people tuning in from Florida, California, Israel, so it was, and people were bidding on things. So I think that everybody realizes that, hey, this is a great tool to use. And so I think that going forward, all events will still have some type of a virtual component for either people who can't make it or, aren't comfortable going or whatever it is. But I do think that'll be back. But I think live people are, human nature is, meeting people, talking to people, not doing it over a screen.
Yeah. Hey, Rick, on that note of virtual events, share with us a little bit about what you suggest as kind of some tips or suggestions for event producers, planners on how to really produce the best virtual events. What are the key things to take away? And I'm sure there's a lot of similarities with an in-person event, but what are the things you would
Absolutely.
say, hey, look out for this, keep this in mind?
Well, I mean, like you just said with a live event, the thing that we generally ask our clients to do is write out a run of show. How do you see this going? It's an hour, or it's an hour and a half, and you see the intro being this and all these different things. So that's like a really great start. The other thing that we try to encourage, if it's possible and it's in the budget, to do as many pre-recorded segments as you can. So, and that's mainly so the person who's doing the live event doesn't have to carry it for an entire hour. They can do a couple of minutes and they can cut to somebody, and it could, it can still have the appearance of being live. It's just, it's just done without as much pressure. So especially if it's for some executives, letting them do it a few times, making sure you use the best cut where they're the most comfortable. To me, that's a huge thing if you can do it. And then the other thing, we always test, like if we're bringing somebody in virtually, a lot of times like we'll have people in the studio, but we might have one or two people coming in virtually from either out of the country or, out of state. And so doing a test, the day before to make sure that the internet signal is strong enough and that there aren't any problems, that's kind of important. Just as much of those types of things as you can do. I just think it makes it a lot easier for people. We've done so many things virtually, like we did a book launch. We've done corporate pitches where they're trying to sell them something. Obviously all the different live events that most people were going to. So, we've seen just about everything. And I think it, for now it works just fine and it fills the void. And maybe this year people will still be doing them, but I don't see it to continue that strongly as we get out of this.
You hit on what's probably a huge opportunity for you guys in the mindset of all of this capability you're building isn't just for events, but like you said, corporate pitches, and I'm sure that you're probably just scratching the surface on all the things you can do with the technology and the facilities you're building out over there, huh?
Yeah, it's interesting. We just formed like a new company called Packard Production Studio, and we are working on some original content. So, we're trying to build some shows and, write some things just because the studios, even on the best month, is still dark, half the time. So, we want to be able to use that infrastructure for something. So, hey, if you guys have any ideas, let me know.
Yeah, that's great. I love that.
We've got this. We just heard about this great new podcast in the event industry that probably has some good synergies we could tie together with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'll tell you what, Rick. Again, let me reiterate. We've all worked with Display Group, over and over again, and have had nothing but amazing experiences with you and your team, and it's inspiring to see what you guys keep doing because you give us vision and what we could do as event professionals, and having the chance to pick your brain like this has been awesome for us sitting here, but I know for everybody that's ever going to listen to this is really going to be valuable. And so to take your time and do that meant a lot to us and will to our audience. So thank you so much. Is there anything that you want to, kind of leave us with or anything else that you want to share?
Just that, it was really nice talking to you guys. I think you guys also have a great reputation in the industry, and I appreciate all the things that you guys do. And I would just say I wish you success on this podcast. I think it's a great idea, And yeah, I think it's going to be a huge success for you.
Awesome. Well, Rick, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for your time today, Rick.
Thanks,
We
Rick.
really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
we're gonna
Yeah,
stop
I look
the
forward
recording
to having
in
a
minute,
drink
but,
with you guys down in the
we
here,
can't
like
wait.
maybe in the next year.
hell
Yeah,
yeah,
right before
Can't
the
wait.
next year.
Well, John sent me an email right after Building 22 opened. Said, "Hey, come on down. Let's get you to come do a tour." And
Yeah.
so we're going to be coming down there here relatively soon.
Anytime, just let us know. We'd love to have you.
Oh, can't wait!
All right.
Awesome.